Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary Club of Worldwide Impact, and we're excited to share our mission with all of you tonight and the work that we do as part of the Rotary family. My name is Dewin, and I will be your host tonight. Rotary International is a global network of more than 1.4 million neighbors, friends, leaders, but especially problem solvers in more than 46,000 clubs around the globe. We are all united with the common goal of making a positive impact in our communities and worldwide. Through our Impact Speaker series, we connect with fascinating speakers and change makers who have powerful ideas. Yes, those powerful ideas that spark change and remind us of the impact that we all can do in the world. Whether you're listening these speaker series through your favorite podcast app, watching on YouTube, or visiting our club website, we are glad that you are here. And if you find this conversation meaningful, please share with a friend, with your family, and don't forget to leave us a rating and a review. 5 stars always make our day. Today, guest, we are extremely honored to have Marina LeGree, the founding director of Ascent, a global organization that empowers girls through leadership and sports. Since 2014, Marina has been dedicated to helping young women build strength and confidence by getting them into the mountains. With over 2 decades of experience across the globe, Marina brings a deep background in international affairs and public policy. Also, Marina's academic journey took her through Georgetown University and Harvard Kennedy School, where she later received the prestigious Alumni Public Service Award for her global contributions. As a lifelong athlete and outdoor enthusiast, Marina is passionate about the transformative power of sports and her mission to help the next generation of girls discover their inner strength. Tonight, we're extremely honored to have her with us, and she has an amazing story that she will share in a bit, and we cannot wait to hear it. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired. Thank you for joining us tonight, and let's welcome Marina. The mic is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very warm welcome. And I have to say also with all of you who are Dutch on the call, I was actually named after a Dutch friend of my parents. So um, anyway, I'm honored to address all of you, and Rotary has been an organization that's near and dear to Ascend. We have a lot of very similar values and operate with similar kind of hopes in mind, especially in the service. Um, and we've been happy to give presentations at a few different Rotary clubs, including Key West and Telluride and Washington, D.C., and actually Kabul, which had an active Rotary chapter for some years. It's not active at the moment, but we were actually members there for some time. Um, so, what I'm going to talk to you about today is the power of sports to unleash the potential of girls. And that's been my life's mission for the last 15 years. And I got the idea originally because I went to Afghanistan with the idea that I would spend my career doing humanitarian aid and development work. And as soon as I got there, and not too long out of college, where I had played sports my whole life, mainly basketball, fast pitch softball, threw the javelin, did some other thing. I was always playing sports. And that made me me. That was how I felt confident, how I felt like I belonged to teams and had connections and was my best self. Um, and that was all taken away from me by virtue of living in a place where girls could not be active physically outdoors. And that was a real shock to my system. I wasn't prepared for that part. And because I was working with the German aid agency at the time, and so we lived and worked the way that Afghans lived and worked, which meant I needed to adapt and accept those limitations. And I didn't like it one little bit, the part where I had to be physically constrained. So it just opened my eyes to the fact that that is the reality for girls and women in so many parts of the world. And this whole avenue of fulfillment and achievement and confidence development and all of that is just unavailable to lots and lots of girls and women. So I wanted to change that. And for one thing, I discovered yoga because that's something that I could do inside the four walls of my room, and discovered how precious that can be, and how good for mental health and all of the other things. So yoga became an integral part of Ascend from the start. Um, but basically, our mission is to empower girls through sports. And the sport that I chose was mainly because of location. I was in the rural northeast Afghanistan where the mountains are tremendous and there's all kinds of opportunity there, but that opportunity is totally cut off for local people. Um, so in the course of doing that, I'm not a rock climber. I wasn't at the time. I had never done it. But we enlisted the help of a lot of people who were professionals and really accomplished climbers and mountaineers, and built the program based around rock climbing and mountaineering, which is also a really unusually impactful sport, I would say, in terms of really condensing experiences and giving girls the opportunity to test themselves, push their limits, bond with one another. And all of that can happen. And this is the really unique part about climbing. It can happen out of the public eye. And when you're dealing in cultures where girls are, it's not acceptable for them to be seen playing basketball, for example, or playing soccer, where there's always eyes upon them. Rock climbing is different. You're out in nature. And not only are you shielded from the public eye, but you're away from all the normal social pressures and roles that you're expected to play when you're in nature. And wilderness therapy can be introduced, and it becomes a really a wonderful experience. So um, that's what I've been doing. I set out as you mentioned in my introduction. My background is really in public policy and international affairs. So launching an NGO was a whole different skill set that I needed to figure out along the way. Um, and my vision when I started Ascend, which was in 2015, was to prove the concept in Afghanistan, which is a place that I lived for about 5 years there, but then take it elsewhere because it isn't just Afghanistan that has limitations upon girls. It's everywhere. And girls in every society face different sorts of pressures and limitations and social expectations that they didn't ask for. So it can be adapted and applied everywhere, and including my own country. Um, so I'm going to talk about both Afghanistan and Pakistan. Um, we started our program, like I say, in Afghanistan because that's where I had my roots. And in 2021, we obviously were impacted by the Taliban takeover of the government, and we ended up evacuating all of our people, our staff, and our instructors that we had been training, and we started over again in 2023. We kept the building, but all the people changed 100%. Um, and simultaneously, in May 2023, we relaunched in Afghanistan and we started fresh in Pakistan, which realized a dream for me to take Ascend to a second country. And I hope that we'll be able to leave Pakistan in the good hands of Pakistanis and take the concept to a third country at some stage. So why Afghanistan? Why Pakistan? We invest where there's greatest leverage for change. So where gender inequality is most extreme, that's where we have focused. And if you look at the annual rankings that come out, Afghanistan is right at the bottom. And Pakistan is actually second from bottom. It's a fascinating place because it's a very big country and there's parts, it's very diverse in its parts of the country, and we're working there in the north. I'll talk a little bit more about that a bit later, the Pakistan program. But why do we do this? We have to ask that question. Um, I knew my own reasons, but as time has gone on in the last 10 years, especially, research is piling up about the potential impact of sports on girls. It's no longer seen as a nice to do kind of add-on activity. It's essential for the health of girls. And actually, I spent this last semester as a teaching fellow at Harvard Graduate School of Education, and so there are a lot of brilliant students in there, grad students. Planning to lead education initiatives all over the world. And increasingly, you see sports for adolescent girls getting mainstreamed into school programs because it has a huge impact. And just it's a long list. I won't go into all of it, but the indicators that are improved when girls can participate in sports are across every aspect of well-being. So girls have increased mental health, their self-confidence is improved. They are less like girls who participate in sports are less likely to be victims of domestic abuse. They marry later, they have children later and with healthier outcomes. They have higher incomes over their lifespan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not really an optional thing. It's something that needs to be provided, and movement and physical health needs to be made available to girls. And there's a way to do it that can be culturally acceptable. Um, so that's where Ascend comes in. We try to fit in that space where we can understand and respect the cultural norms and find a way for girls to access all these benefits without creating rebellion necessarily. Um, and that benefits obviously the whole world. So our program is designed around 5 pillars. And so it's a very ambitious, holistic approach to giving girls tools that will benefit them throughout their lives. Mental health is obviously it is health. You can't have physical health and mental health separately. So we address both of those through different pillars. We build for example, in Afghanistan, we have a full-time psychologist on staff. We've just hired one for Pakistan as well. And we do a lot of group-based approaches, but also individual counseling when it's needed. And personal narrative plays a big role, is giving girls the opportunity to take control of their own stories. Um, Environmental stewardship, we're in the mountains and we play in nature, and we want to have an appreciation of and tools to take care of nature. And what the program is designed around is giving girls understanding on a macro level of environmental systems, and also a micro level of, as an individual, how can you play your role in climate change in a positive way. And then through service projects, they teach all of those concepts to young people in their communities. So that's a big piece. Leadership training involves practical, for example, planning a hike or a 3-day camping trip, um, and the exercises that go along with it. It also includes classroom trainings in just management, goal setting, budgeting. There's all kinds of practical skills in the leadership training component. And we have recently, in January this year, introduced entrepreneurship, which is wildly popular in Afghanistan. We're looking to introduce it in Pakistan as well. Um, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as well later. But the entrepreneurship is part of leadership training. Community service, as I said, that's been part of my personal um, passion in launching this program from its start, that girls are not victims. They don't need aid and support. They need tools, and they need to have that same spirit that I know you all have at Rotary, that we make our world better when we give back. We have to do it. It's part of being an evolved human. And we want the girls from day one to understand that, yes, they're getting help and support right now, but they'll be the helpers and the supporters very soon. And their duty is really to look for ways to open doors to the next girls. So they do tons of community outreach, and I'll show a little video of one of those uh, projects. And finally, like I said, the physical fitness. Most of the girls that enter our program have, well, Pakistan's different. Girls have had chances there to do sport, but in Afghanistan, most girls have had zero chance. So they have no foundation of physical fitness and awareness. So we do an awful lot of health, nutrition, and basic fitness building. The impacts we're looking for are quite foundational. The number one thing is increasing self-confidence. If a girl believes in herself, then she can do anything. It's that foundation, and we do it at that age where girls are really solidifying their self-image. And we want to intervene at that stage and make sure that girls appreciate their physical selves and all the facets of themselves as a person, and increase their confidence and self-efficacy. And again, the community engagement's really essential to the program. And through that is where we get the bigger numbers. The direct enrollments that we can take in the program, we're limited by resources of how many people, how many instructors we can pay, and how many people we can fit in our buildings and all of that. But once they're graduating, they join the Alumni Association, and that creates this ripple effect where they have the tools, they have this network and sisterhood that they've become a part of, and they create their own projects. We provide some support, but it's a step back when they become alumni, and they're out in the communities generating um, new projects and delivering that information. And just as a side note, I don't like to skip this over. It's not a small detail, but it was a deviation from our program and our mission from 2021 until the end of 2022. We were completely devoted to the resettlement and the support of these 134 Afghans that we helped to evacuate at that time. So I think we covered most of these things. Another important element, though, that I'll just touch on is the team part. One of the impacts on girls and women in many cultures is that they are kept apart or taught and socialized to compete with one another. And that has really negative impacts long term. And we create this environment. And this is something that I saw in particular in Afghanistan, where girls are taken out of their family home and put in the husband's home and often very isolated from the women. And there's a lot of troubles with between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflict and that sort of thing. Um, and girls don't have the opportunity to interact with peers very much. They did go to school, but outside of school, they're typically not able to develop positive interactions with people. Certainly not with people from other cultures and socioeconomic groups. And there's this longing that we constantly see among girls to just be free, to be free to achieve their potential. And we hear comments all the time. I often go 2 or 3 times a year. I go spend time with the teams and do camping trips and just have time with the girls. And it's a it's a really profound change that we see in them when they are able to physically go out and camp and test their physical skills and be with other girls. And they get a fresh perspective. And they get a fresh confidence. When you've climbed a mountain and you've stood on top of a summit, you feel like you're something different. Something changes that never, you can't put that back in a box. And that's what we're aiming for. So this is a network. Ascend is really a global network of supporters who help in various ways. Obviously, we're a nonprofit. We're privately funded. We're not government supported, never have been. And that means a lot of people play small parts, and that adds up to a very big impact. I'm happy to take any questions now, and we have a couple of videos also that we can share, but I'm conscious of time, so maybe we'll break and take any questions. I think there might be some in the chat.
Thank you so much for this really, really insightful presentation. It's so interesting, and the scope of work of us, and it's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. Colleagues, we have the Q&A session, and we are using the chat option here on Zoom. You are welcome to join and ask your questions through the chat, or you can also use the interaction buttons, raise your hand and ask your questions. We do have a couple of questions here in our chat, and I'm happy to start with Sam's question. Sam is his question is, knowing that you're working to help girls at local level, but also climbing is now an Olympic sport. How are you incorporating this important rise in awareness and following up? Are you working at all with the IOC or individual country Olympics committee?
So we have basically we are working through local bodies both in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. In both of those countries, there's nothing happening with the IOC. I wish there was. In Afghanistan, there's been corruption problems and other issues. And in Pakistan, it's a lot of climbing is starting to happen, but the organization hasn't caught up. So we borrowed from the American Mountain Guides Association, and through a collaboration with them, we have certified our climbers in Afghanistan as rock climbing instructors, single pitch instructors, making them the first women in Pakistan with that designation. I hope that that leads to a greater, multiplying that effort. That's what we're working towards, is that they can teach others, basically. So we have a cohort now of 8 new trainees that will train under them and build this out. But organizationally, we don't have anything specific with IOC. If anybody has connections there, would love to have them. But so far, no.
It would be a great collaboration to have uh, the Olympic committees involved. That would be great.
It would be.
Absolutely. Yes. We also have a question from our friend Patrick. Does Ascend experience a different atmosphere and impact of the organization before and after the evacuation due to the Taliban regime change?
Very much so. The big change for us is that we can't take the girls outside to do rock climbing and mountaineering. That's not allowed under this regime. But ironically, our program is really thriving. It's much stronger and broader reaching in 2023 than it ever was before. 20, I mean, post 2023 when we restarted Ascend 2.0. It's really difficult dealing with these particular individuals. Of course, surprise, surprise, everything that we stand for is generally, at odds with their belief system. So we have to be careful with how we present information. But we decided from the start. Again, my background is public policy and governance, so you can't fight the government and scale. And we did not want to be a secret school or something like that where parents have to worry that authorities are going to come in and disrupt the day and their daughters might be compromised. And some we wanted to be transparent. We don't like it, but that's what reality is, and we really want to protect the space for our girls and women to attend our courses in confidence and in comfort. So we've had to sacrifice the outdoor element, and we don't explicitly say women's empowerment. We talk about family health and women's well-being, and it's a bit of semantics there, but the practical impact is actually much stronger, I would say, than before. The difficulty is that girls and women are totally restricted, and that's very difficult for them. The depression is the number one concern of the girls that we survey. So yeah.
Thank you so much for that question, Patrick. We also have a question from our friend Will. Do you have any long-term contracts with sponsors, or do you renew on yearly basis?
I appreciate that question, Will, because no money, no program. That's how it goes. And we don't have long-term contracts with sponsors. We do have to go through that effort every year, and it's a continual process. And the primary focus of our efforts is fundraising, marketing, and outreach. We can do wonderful work, but if nobody knows about it, we will not exist. So we are really grateful to our private sponsors. Basically, small family foundations are the primary supporter of our work. And we're trying to get institutional grants so that we can scale. Again, in Afghanistan, we've gone through all the hard work to get permission from this very difficult, you know, governing authority. So we want to scale. There's no reason we have to stay just in Kabul, and women need this kind of programming everywhere. There's 34 provinces. I'd love to be in all 34 of them. And we have the official government permission to do that, but we don't have the resources. So it's top of mind all the time, but it's times are tough right now and not getting any easier.
And just a follow-up question in terms of the contracts and sponsorship. During your presentation, we saw a couple of logos like Patagonia and a couple of these brands. Uh, are- how are they collaborating? How are they engaging in these initiatives?
So Helly Hansen, Patagonia, Petzl Foundation, and Black Diamond have all been really helpful in terms of gear. Climbing does take gear, and you need to have only the best when it comes to rock climbing, life or death situations. So yeah, we've been really grateful for that. And obviously, it's good visibility when we can have big brands like that involved. The reality is that gear is about 5% of the budget or less, I think. It's primarily, we pay people. We pay our staff. We have 30 staff between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Almost all of them are women. And they're on the payroll 12 months a year. And we have two, training centers where we operate. So those are kind of the costs that we have to get sponsored through other means. But we every brand makes a difference. 5% here, 5% there, and we get there.
And it's a lot of work involved, a lot of staff. involved in every day in all these activities. Colleagues, we are having many questions in our chat. We also welcome questions through your microphones. You can use the interaction buttons and open your mics if you have specific questions or more comments to enrich the conversation with Marina. Martine has a really interesting question. How do you measure the long-term impact of your work, especially in communities where change can take a little bit of time?
Mhm. Well, we're dealing in social change, and it always takes time. Absolutely. And it's difficult to measure. And this type of work is notorious for being difficult to measure because you can measure outputs easily. How many girls have attended our session and how many trainings did we deliver? But this deep transformational change that I'm talking about, when girls see themselves as a capable person, what will they do? How does that impact their lives? That's a lot more difficult to put a measurement on. Um, we now have 10 years of data to look at, so we're really proud to say 100% of our graduates say they have improved their self-confidence because of the program. That's our number one kind of indicator. But beyond that, we do a lot of interaction with families, and social change starts at home. And that is where we spend a lot of investment of talking with the parents. We do surveys at the beginning of the program, midpoint, and at the end to see how the perception of the families has changed of their daughter or sister or whatever, wife in some cases. So that's been something really amazing to see is the minds that open in the broader circle beyond the girl herself. But a lot of skeptical brothers or moms or whatever, their minds change as they see the behaviors of the girls change over time. Um, and we also see enrollment, like the demand for the program is a big indicator. When I first started this in Kabul in 2015, I was hoping I could get 6 girls to sign up so we could try to go climb a mountain. And it was like a very radical thing at the time. And we got 12 that year, and then it's just snowballed ever since. But we've always got waiting lists and far more demand than we can accommodate. So I think that's one of our big indicators as well, is people want this. And
That's so interesting. What you mentioned, 6 girls and then 12 and more of them interested in joining. Makes me think about a follow-up question. Do you remember any, or you want to share any experience through one of those hikes, one of those rock climbing experiences with the ladies?
Sure. Well, there's one that always sticks in my mind, which there's many Afghan girls that have heartbreaking stories. There's a lot of hardship and difficulty in a country that's been torn up by war and everything else for as long as Afghanistan has been. And girls have suffered the most, I would say, from that. Um, but when we go hiking, the sheer joy that comes out, it's just, it kind of, for me, it refills the well because I'm sitting in the US doing fundraising all the time for people who are a long way away. So that contact point is important. Um, but there was one girl who I knew was facing a lot of trouble at home. There was abuse in the home. Um, she was extremely shy when she started the program, and she told me as we were hiking that she felt like a caged bird who was flying for the first time. And that type of sentiment, it's it's hard to measure that. Yeah. And we also see, I love going rock climbing in both countries because I don't know if anybody on this call is a rock climber, but when you first, yeah, okay, good. So when you're rappelling for the first time, it's kind of a thrill, right? And you have to really trust whoever is holding the rope knows what they're doing, and you have to let yourself go. You're vulnerable in a very real, visceral way, and emotions come out. People cry, they tremble, they think they can't do it, and then they're just like euphoric when they've done it. Um, so it's really fun to see that over and over again. It's just the absolute pride and confidence that girls feel when they've overcome that very human fear. It's also fun when boys and men watch and they're like, whoa, look at these girls go. Those are some fun ones too.
Absolutely, the girl power. Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that really meaningful experience. And those are the moments uh that we always remember, and they go deep in our hearts and motivate us and inspire us to keep working on it. Um, we have a really interesting question as well from our colleague Jed, and it's regarding cooperations. Do you
Mhm.
cooperate or coordinate with any other organizations to reach out to girls, for
Mhm.
instance?
Absolutely. In Afghanistan, especially now, we have to have allies, and we're in close collaboration with lots of different organizations. There's an umbrella organization called Akbar that coordinates all of the NGO activity. There's about 200 members, and we're part of that. But there's also an alliance for the education of women of Afghanistan that we're a part of, and that involves lots of education providers and universities and other nonprofits. But we share information. We encourage people to share the opportunities that we offer because there are lots and lots of girls in Kabul. We have limited spots. We take cohorts of 50 every 4 months, and those classes fill up very quickly. And now that we've added entrepreneurship, that's another 50. Um, but we want to make sure that that information reaches the right people. And most things in Afghanistan are still word of mouth, and I think a lot of the world is that way. So there's a lot of information sharing, and we also are doing some things like our instructors, who are all women, do teaching for the staff of other partners for example, in things like yoga and mental wellness. They teach first aid. There's some other kind of practical trainings that we can offer to our partners. So we've been exploring more of that. In Pakistan, um, it's still quite new, and we're looking at doing leadership training for corporates. So our rock climbing instructors who are now certified through a verifiable, organization can lead rock climbing exercises as part of corporate leadership training management.
Thank you so much for sharing that aspect with us. And also following up with corporations and work with government. Uh, Joanna had a really interesting question about how or has been there any change in the receptivity of government or officials as the program has evolved over time?
Hmm. There's a lot of effort put into these relationships because we need the government to be on our side or to, provide an enabling environment in both countries. And in both countries, it's tricky. Um, in our own country, it's also tricky. Um, so yes, that's always a priority. In Afghanistan, um, because of the way we frame this program as focused on women's health, we we were able to navigate the obvious kind of obstacles. If we had gone in and said, "We're here to, take Afghan girls rock climbing," that would have been a hard no, an end of story. So we had to be, um, yeah, a bit more strategic with how we communicate and leverage relationships that we've had. I mean, I started working in Afghanistan in 2005. So, there's a lot of reach back to people who understand the purpose of what we're doing and it's all led by Afghans, not by me, or any other, foreigners. It's Afghans who know how to talk in the right way to the officials and get things through. And in Pakistan, I think our number one challenge, the government's been great and supportive, and doors have opened. But the problem is that people get excited about the rock climbing bit and the mountaineering bit and want us to be just that. But it's not about that. That's the mechanism that we use to build confidence in girls. And our end goal is to build confidence in girls. And so we have to make sure we're not put in boxes we don't want to be put in. Um, so a lot of communicating is necessary.
It's so insightful to understand that it takes so much efforts from so many stakeholders to make all this happen. Thank you
Mm.
so much, Marina. We have a really good question from our climber. Sam, would you like to ask that question or do you want me to read it? I'll
Sure, sure. I can ask. So first of all, thank you, Marina. This is such an interesting program, especially as a rock climber myself, indoor and outdoor, very different, but also very much a growth experience, no matter what level you're climbing at. So I really do appreciate it. But my question is, after seeing this presentation and listening to you, what can we as Rotary members or individual people in the world kind of our Rotary Club is all over the world, and who knows whom will be listening to this or watching this later. What can we do to help you and your organization?
Thank you. I love that question. Thank you for asking it. Um, the number one thing is we need publicity. We need visibility. We need people like you to hear this story. We are a small, mostly volunteer-led nonprofit, so we don't have big marketing budgets, and we work in tricky places. So it has always, since our founding, it has been connections through personal relationships that have brought us the donations that sustain us. Um, Connections to family foundations, like I say, who don't advertise, you can't apply, but people need to hear about you and be switched on to what you do. Um, like I said, we love Rotary and the network is fabulous. I love that it's just everywhere in the world and you find it in the most surprising places. So we would love to share our story with any club that wants to hear it. If we can do face to face, we always do that. We have our own kind of global networks too, a lot smaller than yours, but we do have people um, from Norway to the UK to Pakistan, US, and in between. So, and our social media is a great place, especially our Instagram is very lively these days. We have tons of cool content that the girls are directly creating in Pakistan and Afghanistan. So follow us, share it, share the story. In Afghanistan, again, the narrative is so very negative, and many people believe it's not possible to do what we're doing. So we're fighting against that. And again, tell people, share this story, um, post about it, tag us. If there are introductions you think are appropriate, we'd love to be introduced to new places. I think those are the, and of course, if you'd like to donate, we survive on donations. That's how nonprofits work. And yeah, but I think that the donations come when more people know that we exist. So that's our number one ask.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marina. And I think we have so many opportunities of collaborations and as you mentioned, it takes efforts of so many stakeholders and so many people involved and any collaboration supports these amazing initiatives. Colleagues, we have a few more minutes for more questions. If you have any, please, you're super welcome to join the conversation with comments or any particular question if you have. And while you prepare your questions, and after listening to this amazing story, oh, let's go to Joanne first.
I would really like to have information about how to reach out to you, Marina. And that would be names and phone numbers and emails and that sort of thing. Simply because I sit here, probably the oldest one that I'm looking at on the screen. And I wish you'd been around when I was a young teenager and had no clue of how powerful life can be for me as a female. So if someone here, Pat or doing whatever, who's ever got all the info, if you could put that in the chat, I would really appreciate that.
I just put my email in the chat, and I'm sure it
Oh, great.
can be shared in other ways
Thank
as well. Happy to stay connected with
you.
any
Yeah.
of you.
You're one very brave woman, I have to say. You got some chutzpah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I could say the other word, but I won't.
I like
You're,
chutzpah.
you're very strong. Fantastic.
It has been, somebody asked it earlier, but meaningful moments. I mean, being with girls who are changing because of this program, it's extremely motivating. And people are, yeah, I mean, we see the limitations placed on girls and what a loss that is for all of us when that happens. And we have hit upon something that we know really works, and it is opening a whole world to girls. So it's been, um, yeah, we have to keep going.
As you mentioned throughout your presentation, it's so inspiring all the hard work that you and the team have been doing in all these years. And it brings me to this question, and please, could you bring us back to your first days in Afghanistan? What kept you motivated? What kept you awake? How you were doing day by day? Can you take us back to those first days?
Sure. So I first arrived there January 5th, 2005, on a plane that was from Baku, and smoking was allowed on the flight. It felt like a really long time ago in a really different world. Um, but I was sent to Badakhshan province in the rural northeast, where there was no pavement to speak of in the whole place. And it wasn't a military conflict. It was basically a underdevelopment, and there was a lot of warlordism still going on. Um, but I think what kept me going, people were lovely. People really welcomed me. The development was happening, basic infrastructure and education and training and things like that. But there's like a mystique about Afghan girls and women because they're so out of reach to most foreigners. And because of the nature of my job, I mean, I sometimes spent the night on sleeping on mats in community homes and things like that. So we were very much like with people. And again, the realization that what made me me, this sports and freedom to move, was totally missing for all these girls. And sometimes I would meet girls who you could just tell they're like tomboys like me. They just want to play sports and run around and do things. And so it's just like a very obvious realization when you're there that people are people are people, and that we need the same things. We need like culture, sure, we all do things a little differently, but we're all humans, and that physical movement is really essential. So I started thinking about it early on. Um, and I would go hiking sometimes with a group of other foreigners, including a Dutch woman, actually, and a couple of Swiss. But we crazy foreigners would go off and like scratch that itch to go hiking and get some exercise. But Afghan girls couldn't do it. So just knowing them on a human basis, being invited into people's homes, and realizing we're not that different yet. There's this big missing piece. I think that stuck with me and still does.
Wow, it's incredible. It takes lots of courage and strength. It's really motivating and inspiring. Thank
I'd
you.
like to add, if I may, just one more thing that I found very it, again stuck with me. A light bulb went on when the type of work I was doing. We were often doing drinking water systems, so that involves hiking up to the spring source, locating that, doing some calculations, and then you build a drinking water system. So it was important to the community. So sometimes the provincial governor would come along because it's a big, visibility thing. And I remember he was like a famous mujahid basically, and but he wasn't that fit anymore. So I was like, 26, 28 something, and I could climb faster than he could. And he was so amazed with like that basic thing that I was physically more fit than him impressed him enough that like he paid attention. And that it's like in some ways, if girls and women are physically capable, people pay attention and give you a little more space. And that's another thing that I thought, okay, plenty of Afghan girls can be fit as well, and get a bit more respect and a little bit more airtime if they show those skills. It's something that, and if you climb a mountain, that's universally impressive. Um, so let's let girls achieve that, and it gives them just a little bit of a platform that they can then use.
And it's a long-lasting impact. In our chat section, we also have a couple of comments and remarks also from Patrick. That he is also sharing that in Afghanistan and Pakistan are also two countries that are focused on Rotary International endeavors like and polio now, and it's incredible to see the work that it's been done across these two countries. Case also mentioned not a question, but a big thank you. Thank you for your great story and the amazing work. that you are doing with these young girls and women. Thank you so much for that. And I think we all echo and we are so inspired by your story. Colleagues, we are almost at the end of this incredible Q&A, and we have been learning so much about Marina and Ascent and all the different things uh, that this amazing organization is doing to empower girls through sports. If you have any last questions or any remarks, please, you're free to ask them. And in the meantime, I have a really interesting question. Marina, where's your favorite rock climbing spot? Where's your favorite hike?
Hmm. Well, as I said, I did not do any rock climbing until I started Ascend. So my whole rock climbing career has happened in Afghanistan and Pakistan, which is a bit of a strange place to do those things. But there is a place in northern Pakistan in Shigar, which is really beautiful, and there's about 5 bolted routes there, and you look over a 600-year-old mosque and you can almost see K2 as well. It's on Shigar's on the way to K2, so it's just this phenomenal scenery. Um, I'd have to say that's my favorite spot. And there's a nice hotel nearby, so you can go have a nice cup of tea when you're done climbing. Beautiful place. Shigar in Gilgit-Baltistan in Pakistan. In terms of a hike, yeah, it's really rough. And by the way, we are preparing to advertise our services for our climbing guides to take rock climbing clients in northern Pakistan this summer. So we'll be putting that up on our website pretty soon. They've passed their certifications, so they can do it. So you too can go have that experience. Um, but my favorite hike is I'm sitting close to it. I grew up in Washington State, and that's kind of what inspired me as well. It's a green, rugged mountains, and there's hikes all over the place amongst gigantic trees, and that's what I love. I love to be amongst the trees. Afghanistan and Pakistan are quite barren for a person like me who comes from a rainy green spot. So when I'm hiking, I like to be back here in the rain and the clouds.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Will, yes.
Yeah, and maybe for last week, with our Rotary Club, we support a project in Peru, also led by, no, not also, but led by a Dutch woman who's also tries to train the girls, especially in yeah, little cities, not in Lima, but in the really countryside. And if they got trained to be a teacher or work in a kitchen or be a guide, and that's the way they try to improve the quality of life of those girls and really empower them. And I see a lot of uh, similar things that what you do and what they do over there. Yeah, and that's the way
Maybe we
to
can
do
have an
it.
exchange. I'd love to see Peru. She can go to Pakistan for a while.
Yeah, well, I can introduce you. I'll speak to
Yeah,
her very soon. Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And what one last remark, do if you allow me.
Please.
Well, I've probably a little blurred vision of Afghanistan, thinking that women are not allowed to do anything. So you opened my eyes a little bit also that there are opportunities and there are a lot of organization helping the girls over there to get educated and raise their self-esteem, etc. Yeah, thank you for that.
I will also share, and hopefully it can be shared to everyone on this call, some videos on our YouTube channel. And I would recommend you go to our YouTube channel and check out what's there because the Afghan team just produced a 7-minute documentary where they're describing everything that goes on there, which is unbelievable. You need to just see it rather than have me tell you about it. But there's an awful lot going on. The restrictions are severe and they're very real, but there are also ways around them, and life does go on.
Colleagues, we have had an amazing conversation with Marina. We have learned so many insightful things about Ascent and all the work that it's been done in Pakistan and Afghanistan as well. We, if you have any last comments, any last remarks, we appreciate your comments. And before we conclude this Q&A question, this Q&A period of time, what's next for Ascend? Any third country in mind?
Um, Yes, basically, we look at the rankings of the world's most gender unequal places, and there are a lot of places we'd love to work, and pockets of places if you're not looking at the national level, but localized places. But right now, it's been a very challenging year for Ascend and many other organizations and people. So right now, the goal is to just maintain and protect the space that we've established for girls and women, especially in Afghanistan, and just maintain. In Pakistan, we're looking to grow and also to hand off the primary um, revenue generation and management of that program to Pakistanis. So, and then once that's achieved, we'll be able to take a look at a third country. But it's all about funding and sustainability. So we're keeping very focused right now on getting through this turbulent year and making sure that we don't disrupt services to the girls that we serve. Is the U.S. administration a problem? Yes. Yes, yes, it is in so many ways. We are, like I said, we're not government funded, so it wasn't like our funding was taken away. We did have a grant that came through another organization that received its funding from USAID, and that was taken away from us. That represented about 8% of our budget for Afghanistan. So not insignificant, but not existential. But that means that money has to be raised somewhere else. And all of these changes, cancellations, punishments, they're affecting donors, and those donors aren't in a mood to give to us necessarily. Their futures are uncertain. In Afghanistan, we were planning to scale this year and replicate our program in Kabul in two other provinces based on a UN grant that we had applied for and we thought we were well positioned to win. But the UN UNICEF receives 52% of its funding from the US government. So UNICEF is in crisis as well, and so is UN Women, so is UNDP. So the ripple effect is absolutely going down the line and impacting us. We're really looking to private philanthropy and private individuals as that is who has sustained us all along, and that's who we're counting on now. But we hope that we can look at some of these revenue generating models, especially in
Mm,
Pakistan, where
mm,
restrictions are not there,
mm.
to sustain so we can take our fundraising efforts to other where they're urgently needed.
Thank you so much, Marina, and thank you everybody for all your questions, for all your comments, and especially for joining us in this Impact Speaker Series. If you're inspired to get involved and make a difference in your community, we invite you to learn more about Ascend and more about Rotary International. We are happy to share amazing and impactful stories like the one Marina LeGree just shared with us tonight. With that said, we would like to open the mic one more time for some closing remarks. Marina, thank you so much for being with us. The mic is yours.
Thank you so much. I just want to appreciate all of you for taking your time and hearing this story. I hope it is inspiring, and I think the urgency of gender equality is hopefully clear to everyone on this call. When girls and women are empowered, everybody benefits. It's clear as day. This is our one specific way to do it. And I invite you to join us, talk about us, introduce us to other people you think would be interested. Um, yeah, thank you for what you do and for being part of Rotary, which takes a higher order look at this world. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Colleagues and friends, please join me with a round of virtual applause to Marina. Thank you so much for being here tonight with us. Thank you.